Hello, everyone. For the first gathering of the empowered feminine. So I welcome everybody, and I'm happy to hear that it's the yahrzeit of Nina's mother. And so her soul should have an ascension on this day. And I want us to begin by connecting to our mothers, to the lineage of women, our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, and that we focus at this time on our identity as a woman. We have many different identities and roles that we play. But today we're going to focus on being a woman. No accident that we were born women. And the one thing that we learn in Torah is that men and women are not the same. Each one has unique gifts. And we're going to focus on the gifts that women have. And I'd like us to have a Kabbalah of connecting to women, Jewish, non-Jewish women that we know and are all over the world. And I want us to make a special connection to the women of Iran who may be responsible for overthrowing the most tyrannical, oppressive regime since ancient times. These women are fearless. They say no more. And they galvanized so much of the population. So God willing, they should be successful in liberating the world, not just Iran, from this terrible regime. So we send our love and our prayers to them. And we remember that the rabbis have told us that it was the merit of the women that enabled the Jewish people to leave Egypt in ancient times. And it will be the merit of the women that will bring forth this new era that we're all dreaming of, the messianic era, when there'll be peace and there'll be love and there won't be war, and people will all recognize that we're all created by the same God. So we want to take our place in that holy lineage. So I'd like us to take a few deep breaths and just move more into the experience of being a woman. No accident. United with other women. And I'm reminded of the words of Rabbi Nachman, who said, women should think of themselves as another nation. We try so hard to fit in, to adapt. And yet we, in so doing, we can lose our power and our strength as women, so that we're not able to make the contribution that God is wanting us to make as women. You know, for too long, women have been made to feel that they're little less than men, rather than recognizing that they have special gifts. You know, I wrote in The Secret Legacy, I'd like to read some of the quotes here, so that we can meditate. In societies that value power over love, a woman might feel embarrassed, even ashamed, because she feels more deeply than a man. The beautiful, loving heart of a woman is a divine gift, a blessing to all, and must be cherished rather than ridiculed. Women, please remember your true beauty, and your power lies in your willingness to embody the light and the loving heart of the Shekhinah, the divine feminine. No one can take this away from you, though they may try. Delight in being a beautiful, loving woman. If you suffer from low self-esteem, it is only because you have not internalized this truth sufficiently. Being a woman must be celebrated continually. Being a woman is a privilege. I'm going to read you another quote this is from the interview with Chava, with Eve. Eve being the first woman. At her very core, every woman must learn not to resist life, but rather to courageously and open-heartedly embody the beauty of life and the awesomeness of the Shekhinah, the divine feminine. The divine feminine is revealed through every woman, whether she is birthing a child, nurturing relationships, or involved in creative projects that foster greater connectivity and love in her world. When a woman opens herself to embody the Shekhinah, she will feel ecstatically joyful and grateful for the awesome gifts and even challenges that have been given to her as a woman. I think I have another quote. I'll save that for a little bit. So it's our time to be here as women and to celebrate that we're women, and it's not always easy. But I think it's so wonderful to see ourselves, as Reb Nachman said, that we're a separate nation. You know, in ancient times, women didn't try to fit in to male worship, to the synagogues. They had their own gatherings. They had their own ways of connecting with each other and with the divine feminine, the Shekhinah, which is the immanence of God. And the woman knows this the most because she's been blessed to be this. She's not a separate from reality. She is the reality. God flows through her in a way that's very different and unique than a man. So it's very wonderful. And I have visions that women will start to return to embracing themselves as women more, move into deeper ways of embodying and experiencing the divine feminine, so as to restore the balance in the world. Many of you have heard the story about the sun and the moon, that when they were first created, they were equal light. And then the light of the moon was reduced so that she lost her light and she had to reflect the light of the sun and always go through these changes. While the sun was constant, the moon is small, she's large, she's always changing. And we're told that as we move closer to the messianic time, the light of the moon will begin to shine like the light of the sun. No longer imitating men, but embracing our own unique light and gifts as women. So it's more difficult for us to do that because we've all been educated like men. We all have the same learning, we have the same opportunities, except only women can really give birth to a child. And women have a natural propensity to create circles of connectivity to bring people together. So I want to open the floor for some comments, questions, sharings, and then we'll continue. Anybody would like to comment on what I've said? How does it feel? I want this to be interactive, because that's what the feminine is about. The feminine, Miriam, the ancient prophetess, used to have these circle dances. And the circle is very much the feminine symbol. Our bodies are circles. And the circle is teaching us the most important point is that we are all equidistant from God. We're all equal. In the masculine, it's more linear. There's an up and there's a down, there's a line. But the feminine wisdom is all circles. That's why women are always sitting in circles, to demonstrate that we're all equal. We're all women. We're equally loved. We each have the same talents and gifts as women. So I want to open the floor if anybody has any questions or sharings.
Marta.
Marta. Well, Marta, we didn't hear from you in a long time.
Well, it's now. I hear.
Yes, I hear.
I'm hearing, yeah, the circle. Like the circle gathering in the home, the circle gathering with the fire, the circle gathering in the lush meadows, lush rivers, and lush forest. It's like it's stirring up, that like those times in my life when I did that with women.
Right, right. In this lifetime, ancient lifetimes before.
Yeah. Now we're doing it
Yeah,
this. A part of me that we're doing it like this, and it's wonderful. And there's a part of me that, I guess that's some kind of change from the home, the fire, the forest, the meadows, the river. It's still the same.
The menstrual huts that women used to be in together, and it was always so that, if you're, close to women, oftentimes you'll get your menstrual period at the same time. So you would be in the menstrual hut with women that you were close to. So we were all coordinated with the moon, and we had opportunities in ancient times to come together and to be together. And especially Miriam, in my book, talks about what the experience was for women in the desert, that they were dancing and being together, and they had the courage, to try to seduce their men who were so tired so that they could bear children. And even though childbearing was a dangerous thing, the women had the courage to do so. So women in the past were more united as a group. And I think that was very empowering for women because they had other women to support them and to reflect back the beauty that they were. So my hope in this is that we will recreate this and travel through the book, The Secret Legacy, or biblical women who changed the world, and actually they saved the world. And there's so many stories about biblical women that are not known. Because in many ways, a lot of Judaism was written, transmitted to men for men. And women had their own transmission, but it wasn't written down. So we find snippets of it in the Medrash and the Zohar. And I put them all together in my book, The Secret Legacy. And there's many different midrashim about women, and some of them are very contradictory. But I chose what resonated with me, and it was often what the Zohar would say. And I shared in the beginning in the email how I felt called to write this book, The Secret Legacy. And it was when I had heard the story before, but when this rabbi was saying the story about how Sarah died, that she died of grief and anguish, I was actually horrified, and I wrote about that in the email. And I knew that there was a story about Sarah that wasn't known. And it's important that we know these stories about women, that we know the story. We know the story of Hava, how she was demonized for eating of the fruit, the tree of good and evil. But we don't know Hava as the mother of all of life. We don't gain real insight into why she did this, whether this is a true story or mythology. It's important to understand the impact of the story has on women and how to change it around so you see that woman was the leader in many cases, in all cases. What I realized in the writing of my book, that women had exercised leadership roles, had taken actions independent, courageous, independent of their husbands, and very courageous. And they changed the world. And we don't hear these stories. They're not acknowledged. You know, biblical women are indeed honored, but people don't know all of the stories that are in the Zohar, in the Medrash, about why women did what they did. So I wanted to share a little bit about the story of Sarah, which I shared in the email, and I hope you each had a chance to read that, to appreciate, that Sarah died of grief. She waited so long to have this son, and she and her husband were against child sacrifice, even though he wasn't a child, he was 37. So he was complicit with this. His father said, lie down. And he said, where's the ram? Tied him up, ready to sacrifice him. And then the Zohar says, Sarah's last words were, take me and not my son. Let me be the sacrifice. Take me and not my son. Sarah died, and Yitzhak lived. And I believe then Yitzhak went to the yeshiva of Shem and Eber. He didn't really have much of a relationship with his father after this event. And then when he studied for a while, he came back and he occupied the tent of Sarah. And all of the miracles that had been associated with Sarah, her candles burned continually from one Shabbos to the next. And I once had an experience. One time I arranged many years ago to have Shabbat with a friend of mine who happened to be a Qigong master. And we were having Shabbat outside. And I said, it was windy. I said, the candles are starting to flicker. They're going to go out before we even have our meal. And what did he do? He qigonged them. And the candles burned till after midnight. So I realized, wow, that story about Sarah was most likely true because she was recognized to be more spiritually elevated than her husband, Abraham. We saw that in the story of when Abraham goes, to Egypt, and he says, say that you're my sister, so it will be okay for me. And how did he say this? It was because he knew no harm could come to Sarah. She had command of the angelic forces. And whenever a man would touch her who wasn't her husband, he would suffer. So I thought it's important that we learn these stories. Yes, yes, yeah, that we are going and we will return. But it was Sarah who died. And there's many different midrashim about, how her death. Some say she died because he didn't sacrifice her son. But I go with the story in the Zohar. And that's the power of a woman at that time. She had a vision of what was going to happen. And she wasn't, she had to act quickly. So I'd like to, the whole book is really sharing all of the deeper teachings about women and how they can empower us today to embrace our gifts as women and impact the world as they did in our own little way. I want to just end with, because this is like a half-hour class, and I just want to end with Sarah's blessing at the end of the chapter. And I don't claim to be a channel, but I do claim to say that I commune deeply. I commune deeply with the soul of each biblical woman after studying everything that I could get my hands on. And then I just watched what came through to me. And each woman has her own spiritual practice to teach us. Anyway, these are Sarah's last words that I felt flowing through me. Men are still engaging in war. Do you have any final words for women and men today? You live in awesome and awe-inspiring times. Now is the time to reclaim the path of the feminine that I began. You will be supported from on high by many great ones. Doors to palaces of spiritual delight that have been closed for so long will now easily open for you to enter. But you must stay clear and focused. Know your worth. Keep yourself pure. Love life. Be strong. And may you be privileged to lift the veil of the Shekhinah so her light may shine throughout the world. And may the peace of her revelation come soon and easily to Israel and the entire world. Thank you for all your good work, my beloved sons and daughters. I support you. I love you. So I would like people to read this book, to get this book, and we could take the journey with Hava all the way to Esther. And we can appreciate how each journey had similar aspects to it. The women always, they have to go down to Egypt. They have to come up. But each woman builds on the other. And the Zohar says they're really Gilgulim, they're reincarnations of the same soul. So I would like you to read ahead, to read the chapters, and let's meet next week and we'll discuss. I want this to be more interactive, and we'll start with Hava. Yes, Linda.
Next week is Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. So thank you. So afterwards, we'll do it after Thanksgiving. Thank you. Anybody else?
I like how you started this though, because I think I was not sure in what direction you were going, and I have a better idea now. Thank you.
Great. Great. Well, we're going to see how, I'm hoping, I have an idea, but I'm open to what comes forth from us as a group. So I want to thank my friend from Israel is on the call, Becky Pam, and everybody else. And if you have any suggestions, comments, feedback, feel free to send me an email. And I'll keep them. And if this is a good time for you, let me know that. And so anyway, so I thank you all for being there. I hope to see some people next week. We'll get into Hava. And Hava's all about the first woman and really understanding the power of the woman. Okay, so thank you so much. Anybody want to say something before we go? Okay, take care. Bye.
Thank you and happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Thank